All right, starting to see guys. Creations is first in the house for a chat tonight. Well, David, Jerry, how y'all doing tonight? Oh boy, it's so if you guys can hear me okay, give me a thumbs up so I know the mic's working and everything. Just broke up with a new handle. All right. Well, the good news, the state put on a miserable case this week. They absolutely trying to get my thoughts around a couple more videos, but they stepped on their crank. And the fun is they spent all this time focusing on, and so these are just edited thoughts. They're not as refined as when I try to make some notes for a video. But remember, the gun ban was more than just AR-15s. List of guns, but you have 5 categories. You got semi-auto rifles, shotguns, pistols, belt feds, 50 cals. They were working overtime to protect the belt and the 50 cal ban. We didn't spend a lot of time putting evidence on and that stuff. My argument was that if you got into it just the 50 cal ban, that was enough to consume 25 pages out in briefings alone. I think it's a protect them. I think that that's where the feds drew the line. Many destructive devices. It's a reasonable line at a certain point. So, with that, they're trying to still piece they can. But they put on zero evidence about shotguns. They put zero evidence on about handguns. And I think that was a mistake on their part. I think they stepped on their crank. Now, advocate and argue that Heller talked about handguns. Now, they keep trying to import self-defense as a test in common use. That's not what it is. However, they keep trying to do this. Go back to Heller. Did Heller make a distinction between a Derringer and a Glock? No. Did they make a distinction between a revolver and a muzzle-loading pistol? Did they make a distinction between, say, pepper box, 1836 Colt Navy? No. Allergies are kicking my butt, so if I kind of try to hit a mute or whatever, if it gets out of control. A series of sneezes coming on because I never sneeze. Hold on. All right. was out at the club all day today building a shoot house. Anyways, to me, handguns are off the table. Like I said, they don't come in ones. Handguns should be off the table across the board based on Heller. Just period, the end. They said handguns are protected. It's an air pistol or a Derringer. Handguns are protected. So that's what there is. And I think we're going to argue that in our final break. He's asking me, what's the timeline? So McGlynn gave both sides 30, but it's 30 days simultaneously. Unlike where somebody files, then there's a counter brief, then a reply brief. None of that's going on. Please turn it all in your best homework. That's it. So if it's trial on the 20th, 30 days, 20th, our stuff is due. And then we'll see what after that. That's where we are. But I think the state stepped on their crank. And the funny thing is, none of their experts went beyond AR-15s. There's so on the AR-15 issue. And I think this is a mistake that happens in a lot of court cases. Everybody gets wrapped up in the AR-15. 15 is simply, that's the symbol of magazine-fed semi-autos. Not the AR-15, it's about magazine-fed semi-autos. Heller did not do revolvers. A class of firearms. A class of firearms. And that was handguns. Pistols. They didn't say revolvers. And I think that's a big thing here. And I think that's that we have to get to. Yeah, custom. I see that 90-pound trigger just blew away for the way they were trying to get at stuff. It just was. Yeah, I've got this wing sticking out because I've been wearing glasses all day, and every time I wear my sunglasses with a hat, this is what. So, there's that. Say anything about shotguns. So all their witnesses said just focused on things. And the beauty of that is that all of the testimony from our self-defense expert, everything that they didn't cross-examine or do anything with, is all unrebutted. I think we ought to have a over-under bet on how many times we get to cite or use the word unrebutted within our brief, because the other side did not make the case. Everything is about the Seventh Circuit redefining arms. And we're going to hit on that pretty hard. Heller already redefined arms. They and this is the game that the other side is doing. The other side. So the game is text and then history and tradition is the test, the quintessential test. So what did they do? Well, we're going to go back to the text and we're going to redefine stuff. We're going to sit there and we're going to say that, arms, we're going to redefine arms. That's the game they're playing. They're going in and playing a game trying to purport a test under Bruin, that we're looking at the text Text doesn't say what we think, but the Supreme Court has already argued and decided what that text means. So that's the game they're playing. Dave, doesn't matter when the last time a 50 BMG was used in a crime. That you're using logic versus what the legal standard is. But yeah, that 90-pound trigger comment was just, I think that was a showstopper. I think even the judge understood how ridiculous it was. But here you got a judge talking about suppressors. You have a judge that sat there and in his closing sentiments about the bench trial talked about the race riots in East St. Louis in 1917 and wondered out loud if they had had guns like we have today, if it would have been different. Jason, I'd have to look at the Fight Light SCR to see what it is. I don't know it off the top of my head. I'm looking at what you're describing. It depends. I would have to do the problem I have is subpart I has a ban on parts. And I think common parts get you in trouble. But so so my last 2 weeks, I started off with a trip to a fundraiser in Alton, Illinois. Came home Thursday, had a board meeting for the club Thursday night, and we're in our budget season. Friday, I had set up at Zombie Shoot. Saturday, we had Zombie Shoot. Sunday, we had Teardown at Zombie Shoot. And then Sunday, it was drive back to Southern Illinois for the trial. Then I had more budget meetings with the club this week, both Thursday night and last night. So that's been my time. Keith, I can't make out the SIG P320. In general, if it's a 320 that has no threaded barrel and has a magazine of 15 rounds or less, it's fine. But by the way, Tango, long time no talk. Miss you out at the club. Jason, we drew a couple of good judges, but we also did a little bit of research. We knew that the Southern District had a better shot at a conservative judge. Got the luck of the draw with McGlynn, or St. Stephen, as I call him. I think the judge is going to rule in our favor, but then I think Washington gun law, William Kirk, makes a very, very good argument that it's adjudicated unconstitutional at the trial judge, and then the Seventh Circuit stays whatever he does because of their bullshit and Easterbrook's vanity and ego. And then with that, the question is, what does the Supreme Court do with what was Bianchi, now Snope? And if they take that before we get to oral arguments at the appellate court, does it go on a stay pending the outcome of Bianchi? Johnny, I was just getting into that. But again, I think we're going to win the trial court. Now, does he take 9 months to write a decision like Benitez does? I don't think so. Um, I think he wants to get something out quickly. My hope is that he drops it at 4:35 on a Friday afternoon, so the state has to work through the weekend to get an appeal up in front of a judge on a Monday, and we have a freedom weekend at the minimum. Yeah, dude. Yeah, you ought to come out. You ought to come out and check in with the guys just because. Yeah, Jerry, I really, Four Boxes and William Kirk, I stay in touch with those guys a little bit more. Bill's trying to get out here to Illinois, and we may use him for a fundraiser for the Second Amendment Defense and Education Coalition, SADEC, to help fund some more litigation. Um, so, yeah, he's coming out here, and we're trying to work something together. Um, Yeah, Kirk predicts that we'll win trial, get a stay, lose the appellate court. I don't think it's unreasonable that Easterbrook and his vanity. Now, the question is if they accept Bianchi. I'm still going to call it Bianchi. If they accept Bianchi, do they turn around and stay our proceedings pending the outcome of Bianchi? Very likely outcome. Mm. So, um, with all that, Um, but it was an interesting thing, and I really think the state they didn't put up their A game, and if that was their A game, then they don't have much game at all. I don't even think they put up a B game. I think they put up a C game at best, and I thought it was pretty easy to see what they were doing at the first cross examination. And I'm not a lawyer. Uh, But the other thing about Bianchi, and I'm not, if they take up, if the Supreme Court takes up a semi-auto ban, great. I just don't like Bianchi for a number of reasons, and one of those being Maryland's law is much different than ours. Ours is broader. The anti-gunners have been learning as they've been getting their teeth kicked in on the issue and debated and finding votes to pass stuff. So I don't like Bianchi for those reasons, but it got up there first. The real question is what's going to happen with Viramontes. Viramontes is a challenge to the Cook County ban. It is at the Court of Appeals. They got a bad judgment from the trial court, but they have a thin record. It is a very thin record about what there is. They didn't do any of the stuff post Beavis in the Seventh Circuit to address any of those issues. I think the philosophy there is lose fast, get up. Don't do that. So my wife's doing dishes in the background. Can you guys hear a lot of that or not? Um, so that's a problem. I mean, I could actually see uh, Easterbrook and Company grabbing Viramontes with zero record, just done on the briefings, and then turn around and grab that. Rule of Friedman is still good law as a way to cock block McGlynn in our cases. Robert, yeah. So you asked about my thing about throwing stones. So let me talk about that a little bit, change gears here. So here's my beef. I saw Guns and Gadgets and Langley Outdoors and guys just pissing all over the place about NRA's PR stuff over um, bump stocks. The NRA was for the bump stock ban, blah, 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 blah. All that. You know what? If you want to have a say, then you got to roll up your sleeves and do the work. And the work isn't just showing up in front of a camera and putting out your thoughts, bullshit, whatever on YouTube. You got to roll up your sleeves and do the dirty work. You got to get in there. You got to spend time. You got to do all kinds of things. So I am running for the NRA board. I've been meaning to get a video up about it, and I've just been slammed with everything else. So I nominated John Richardson. John Richardson from No Lawyers, Guns, or Money turned around and nominated me. I did not make the cut of the nominating committee, but John did. So John's on the ballot. So I have to run by petition. I'm working on trying to round up the 500 signatures or so. And I have to have these signatures done and turned into NRA by October 8th. So we've got, I personally have collected 150 signatures. Still got a ways to go, but I'm tied in with Rocky Marshall and a bunch of the Reform NRA crew. And so Rocky has this theory. So there are 5 people in my group. And if everybody gets 125 signatures for all the guys in the group, then we get our 500 signatures. It's spread the work out. Many hands make like work. And that's what we're working on. At the same time, I have the issues with running a club, getting the budget done, taking care of my wife, all the other things that have to get done. So I wanted to see if anybody else was going to step up, and we got behind the 8 ball in getting this started. So we're going to try. John made it through the nominating committee. I hope, I'll be urging everybody to vote for John as well as a bunch of other reform candidates. It'll be interesting if I get on the ballot. If I get on the ballot, we'll be talking about it a lot more. But who better? And I've made it clear to the reform groups, my interests are in litigation and ILA. And I think that if we take it, so let's take the $200 million we spent at Brewer. If we had spent half of that on ILA in elections, and then we spent half of it on litigation, give me and a crew of guys, sorry, like Chuck Michelle, $100 million in litigation to just roll up our sleeves and go to war in Illinois, in New York, New Jersey, a few other places. That is just, crazy. Just absolutely crazy. At $1 million a lawsuit, I could have 10 lawsuits against the Attorney General on a 4-dimensional chessboard, and I think I would break them. I think they would be just in pants-shitting hysterics about the ways we would attack things. Now, take $100 million and put it into elections. Sweetheart, are you okay? My wife was coughing a bunch. And so that's $2 million a state. Not every state needs $2 million. Texas doesn't need $2 million. Unless there's a barn burner of a governor's race, that attorney general's race. Wyoming doesn't need $2 million. A bunch of other those states don't need $2 million. So now we have some excess money that we can redistribute. You give me and a couple other guys the ability to have a $2.5, $3, $4, $5 million war chest to go to war in Illinois They ain't seeing what we can dream up. We can talk about guns without talking about guns. I would do a bunch of mail and a bunch of online advertising that talks about how Representative so and so would rather see a chalk outline of a woman's body than see her standing over a dead rapist with a smoking gun in her hand. I think they have taken the gloves off. They want to do bare knuckles. We don't need to show them bare knuckles. We need to show them brass knuckles. And I think there's a way to go at a whole bunch of this stuff. Representative so and so has somebody they'd like you to meet. He's here to terrorize your family. He's here to tie up your daughter and your children. Whatever. I think their pro criminal attitude, their hostility to self defense and the like, I think there's a way to talk about this and get a message across. And if you can saturate that, I think we can actually win seats. I think we could take down the Democratic supermajority in at least one chamber in Illinois, but it takes money, lots of money. You got to burn a message in. And then the question is, even if you don't win, I had this conversation with Eddie Acevedo, the convicted felon, the former Chicago police officer. And that one night, we were at a bar, both had a bunch of liquor in us. Eddie's not a notoriously good drunk. And so, you can't beat me in my district. You're right, Eddie. I can't. But you know what I can do? I can drop enough mail and money in there to make you work and wear out 3 fucking pairs of shoes starting in January. So if you want to spend every weekend and the majority of your waking time between January and March knocking on door to door, fuck with me. It'll only take $100,000. Put somebody up on the ballot and just make their life ever freaking miserable because they have to go out there on the Madigan program and knock on doors. He looked at me and I said, and I looked at him, I said, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Don't ever say the words you wouldn't dare, because the people that say that to me find out very differently. And he shut up and walked away. I had a very liberal Representative Beth Colson from the North Shore, Republican, anti-gun as the day is long. Her husband was a federal trial judge and federal trial lawyer, and was telling me that all their people said we were going to lose Heller. And I looked at her and said, I don't think so. And Heller came out and we won. Said, I thought we were going to lose. She wasn't, overtly, well, you can't beat me in my district. I said, I think we can. And she looked at me and she said, well, there. I said, oh, no, you know what I'll do? Because this is bordering Highland Park. It's all that area. She wasn't quite Highland Park, but all that hoity-toity area up there. I sat there. I said, no, 72 hours out from the election, because this is all before early mail-in votes and all that stuff. I said, 72 hours out, I'll drop 100,000 orange postcards across the district saying the NRA endorses Beth Colson. And I literally watched the color drain out of her face. If you're going to be that shitty of a Republican, I'd rather have a Democrat. And if I take away your means of power by not being there, I win. You're not there to poison the caucus. Yeah, she didn't like that answer. And she got the same lecture about do not utter the words you wouldn't dare. So That's that's some of the stuff. Uh, let's see. John K. Can the appeals court? It depends. They can put a stay on quickly, depending on how fast the state appeals. I'm gonna bet that the state is, if they're listening to anything. Hey Ruger, my pooch just showed up. Looks like he wants treats or something. If the state appeals because they are terrified of a freedom weekend, much less freedom week, who knows? Who knows? Yeah, Johnny, thanks for the comment. Uh, they can bank everything on the Court of Appeals, but we were playing to a higher power. We were playing to the Supreme Court. Build the record, because when we get to the Supreme Court, we're going to sit there and argue this arms standard is bullshit. So, Jason, no. Everybody's worried about what the state inspectors are going to say and all kinds of stuff. Doug, Kamala advertise. Yeah, she's. If they are spending advertisements in front of anything I do, they're wasting their money, and we should be grateful for that, because that ad going to change your mind? No, it's not going to change my mind. I mean, heels up Harris? Nope. Uh, yeah, no. No, the dog has plenty of water. He has food. He's just wanting his treats, and he's insistent about the whole thing. Um, yeah, no. My nickname for her is Heels Up Harris or Kamala Toe. She's willing to lay down on the job. Brian, it depends. The question is, does the emergency panel get the stay, or does it get thrown back to Easterbrook and they claim it's a comeback? Who knows? Who knows? Charles, yeah, the Illinois House isn't bad these days. The problem is any so there's a difference between a rhino and a moderate Republican in my book. And what's happened is the moderate Republicans that on our issue, we would get, say, 65% or so of the time, have been run out by Democrats because the Democrats ran better campaigns. And too many Republicans, in some instances, want purity. I think in certain districts, you can't, as a political realist, you can't ask for purity. You have to have some semblance of understanding what the real world is. Until, look at the Dobbs decision. Look at how the Democrats have capitalized off of that. Republicans, I mean, they're the dog that caught the car by the bumper, and now they don't know what to do. They had no message, no plan, no whatever for the outcome of the Dobbs decision. You would have thought that they would have pre-planned. If this goes this way, we're going to do this. Nada, none of it. Bupkis, zero. And they've just been letting the tail wag the dog on this whole thing. Absolutely letting the tail wag the dog. So, Robert, if the Democrats are spending money in front of my videos, I think they're wasting money. And I'm glad they might as well take that money, put it, even if it's pennies on the dollar, put it in a parking lot and light it on fire. And if I can help succeed in just burning their cash and their points, great. I'm perfectly happy to do that. Uh, DR, I don't think that's the stroke she's proficient in. Dog, yes. I drink primarily Jack these days. When I got diagnosed with celiacs, I was switched from beer. I went cold turkey on Heineken. When I quit drinking Heineken, the gross domestic product of Holland went down almost 3 points. I loved my cold Heinekens, so I switched to Beam, and then found out that Jack actually has a higher corn content because in order to be bourbon, it only has to be 51% corn. So with all that, let me check on something here really quick. Ruger, would you knock it off, please? I'm in the middle of a recording. You can't be that. Is this the Doug I teach with that's sitting in here messaging just out of curiosity? But hey, Buffalo Trace is okay. Great. I just switched over to Jack. I can find Jack pretty much everywhere. Oh, hey, it is Doug. So we got to talk about the CQB class. So Doug here in the comments is a guy I teach with out at ASC, really good dude. Came in to see my wife when she was in rehab, and we had a trip to the ER because the hospital was less than stellar, and did his ever loving best to keep me from getting arrested in the hospital. That was an interesting night and a half. Yeah. Thanks, Doug. Hey, say hi to Caroline. Good to see you guys. But hey, that's this week in trial, good for us. And everybody's out there. The reason we did what we did was designed to attack Easterbrook's comments and rulings in Beavis on the injunction. The Seventh Circuit has set up a new standard that we have to contend with. I agree largely with Mark Smith from Four Boxes that we shouldn't have to have experts and all this stuff. We should just be able to argue it on the merits and the case law. That's not possible. The Seventh Circuit is moving the goalposts. They're doing it by changing definitions. Now, I'm hoping that all gets sorted out. And Clarence Thomas really kind of, how vain is Easterbrook? Because Clarence Thomas points his finger at you and says, your standard is fucked up. And we would love to review this. That's, sweetie? What? Hey, Doug and Caroline are watching and they say hi. Hi. She's over there. She says hi. I just got a thing on my phone to the emergency phone call. Did you fall? No, I did not. All right. I'll be there in a minute. She got some notice. So if McGlynn goes to the work, and that's what McGlynn's doing, he's going through the work to write a decision that's going to comport with what the Seventh wrote. And I think he's going to try to double down and prove to Easterbrook and Wood that you're wrong. I followed your standard. Here it is. And then make it that much harder for them. And the harder he makes it, the better he writes it, then they have to turn around and just jumped the shark like Fonzie to come up with some absurd ruling. That's the game. I don't think it's the right game, but it's the game that we've got. And unfortunately, all these guys, and I said this in a video the other day, all these guys sit there and think that shall not be infringed is all you have to utter. Well, let me tell you something. For 13 fucking years, people sat around and thought if you argued Second Amendment and stapled Heller to the complaint, that was enough. And look what it got us. It didn't. It didn't. It didn't work. And it got us a lot of bad rulings because people were that lazy. So, yeah, Keith, I know about Whiskey Acres. I haven't had time to get up there. That's the opposite direction of my house. So if I'm drinking, I try to get closer to home. That's the whole thing. Brian, I'll tell you what, after what the judge said, I think our closing line in the brief should be that Ida B. Wells once said that the Winchester rifle deserves a hallowed place above the mantle on every black family's home. I think today we should say that should be a AR-15 or other magazine-fed semi-auto. And just watch the state crap themselves. I think that we can do it. I think there's a lot of things we need to talk about. The judge has been put in this crazy position because the seventh refuses to. Yankee is now Snope. It is up there. We're aware. But unfortunately, they have a thinner record, and Maryland's law is much narrower than Illinois or one of the other laws, which I don't think does us a lot of good. But if they, and the question is, what kind of generalities? What I'm looking for the Supreme Court to say that semi-auto rifles, magazine fed or not, are protected. Period. The end. Game, set, match. We get that. We win. Hands down, it's across the board. We'll see what they say about 50s. We'll see what they say about belt feds, because Illinois made a distinction and all that stuff. But in my mind, Heller said for such lawful purposes, for lawful purposes such as self-defense. And the state keeps trying to eliminate such as and say, oh, no, it has to be for self-defense. And not just I lean a rifle up in the corner of my bedroom or I sleep with a gun under my pillow. Oh, no, you have actually had to pull it, produce it, point it, and use it in an act of self-defense. And it's ludicrous. Nothing else is like that. Ed shall not be infringed does not work on its own. Now, I think that if you go through and you sit there and make the case that if you talk about text and you do what the seventh is doing, where they're trying to redefine arms, you sit there and make the argument infringed meant diminished. And any diminishment on that right, there's an argument there. But you don't get just simply utter the words shall not be infringed. You're right. It has to be argued in the proper context. You have to argue it in the context of the text of the Second Amendment and how. And the diminishment comes in the acquisition, in the prohibition on the sale. The diminishment comes in on the prohibition on parts. It comes in on the fact that I can't build my own firearm. I can't assemble the parts to build my own firearm. I can't have replacement parts to fix my firearm. All these kinds of things. There's a way to argue that. But there is a crew of people who just think that waving this little flag shall not be infringed is all you have to do, like it's some sort of, hocus pocus with a Harry Potter wand. So that's, you can play checkers or you can play a three-dimensional chess game. And that's what I'm about with the guys that I work with is a three-dimensional chess game. I came up with the theory on right to repair. And so I want a Diet Coke. Hold one. Sweetheart? What? All right. You're making all noise with dishes. You guys are commenting, but I will be back in a minute. Okay? I'm done. Are you doing okay? I'm fine. All right. I go upstairs, sleep, or down here? No, down here. We're down here. Okay. Do you need help? No. I'm wondering if I'm in the doghouse tonight. But anyways, as I mix another drink up here, so we have our whiskey and wisdom with you guys tonight. Something just fell. But anyways, there's a ton of stuff out there for us to work on. So right to repair. So let's run down this. And nobody else in the country is arguing this, which is so jump back to Ezell. Rhonda Ezell, her case with Second Amendment Foundation, Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, still good law. You have the right to maintain proficiency with a firearm. You have the right to acquire a firearm. Two holdings within Ezell are still good law. So now, if I have the right to maintain proficiency, then I have to have the ability to maintain proficiency with a operational and safely functioning firearm. Okay, firearms are mechanical objects. They break just like your car. They need maintenance just like your car. So with that, or any other, whether it's a lathe or any other mechanical piece of machinery, they need maintenance. I don't want people taking, oh, you said it's a car, therefore we can register it. No, you can't. No. So with that, if I have the right to maintain proficiency, I have to have the right to maintain my firearm in good working order. I have to be able to get the parts to do so. From there, if I have the right to maintain my firearm, then what if I can assemble my firearm because I can get all the parts together and I have the skill to build a firearm? Because you can only acquire a firearm through one of a few means. You can buy it retail, you can buy it in a private transaction, you can barter for it in a private transaction, or you can sit there and make your own gun. And if you go back to 1791, we were making more guns than anything else because in 1791, Springfield Armory, the original one, was making cannons. They didn't start making muskets till about the time of the Constitution was being adopted, not during the Revolutionary War. We were relying on small manufacturers, gunsmiths, and or imports. Remember, Beretta's been making guns since the 1500s. And so with all that, there's a big history in tradition of us making our own firearms. So if I have the ability to build my own firearm, then isn't the next logical outgrowth I have the ability to manufacture my own firearm? And this is where guys are going to shall not be infringed, but wait a minute. The Supreme Court has already recognized that there can be commercial regulations on commercial issues, and manufacturing firearms for wholesale or in a commercial manner, not you building your own firearm for your own personal use. So, giving that caveat away, what stops us? If we win on this right to repair theory, then we naturally go after, and then the ghost gun stuff falls by logic. We've already had one court ruling saying serial numbers can't be required. So you pile on. This is all the important stuff where you got to look at it a three-dimensional game that I continuously argue about. You got to do a three-dimensional game. So, yeah, Jerry, I was very happy to see that comment about the judge on suppressors. I think he gets it. He had a suppressor lawsuit, but unfortunately, the other case got filed in front of that one that he drew, and it was transferred over in May to the other judge. And because of that, he doesn't have that, but who knows? Judges talk. Hey, Keith, thanks a lot. I appreciate all the likes and comments, and guys pass it on about what's going on. Charlie, it depends on when things get up there. Remember, they've got Viramontes sitting up there right now. So depending on when they decide what they're going to do at Viramontes, knowing that this case is coming up right behind it, we're going to have 30 days till October 20th for briefs filed. I think if the state asks for any more time, I think the judge is going to be very disinclined. This case has been litigated, and they just sit there and we need more time. We're overworked. We're this. We're that. I don't think that's going to go over real well. The judge wanted this to go to trial long before now. He really did. So, let's see. Yeah, Dave, they would probably do that because you can make it into something else. Yeah, I can understand that. A lot of guys are being safe rather than sorry. Peanut, I think there are bigger issues than open carry. I think the permit fights, absolutely. Absolutely. I think permit fights like the Floyd and the Maryland stuff, absolutely. And we'll see if Moore v. Maryland goes up or not. We lost at the Fourth Circuit en banc panel. So now we'll see what the Supreme Court's going to do with that. They've already taken Vanderstock. You're going to have Mock on pistol braces showing up, and which is another APA case. And then you got the frame. Let's see, Vanderstock is frame of receivers. So you've got Mock on the pistol brace rule. I don't think the challenge to some of the other FFL rules is quite up there yet. But then you've got all the felon in possession cases floating around. And you've got Bianchi up there. And then you've got more pending. Getting more than 3 cases out of them a year is going to be tough. In this last year, we got Cargill, we got Rahimi, and there was another case that I'm drawing a blank on. But, understand, Cargill sat there and said that, bump stocks did not make semi-autos machine guns, which I think plays heavily in our favor in the Illinois case. The difference being that they seemed all too willing to let Congress redefine it. And the argument was you wrote a bad definition. You're complaining about you didn't update the definition as times changed. That's why I don't think we're going to win on machine guns at the Supreme Court. You can say the NFA should be unconstitutional, make the case, but right now, I don't think the justices are inclined to let you have a GE minigun cash and carry across the board uh, any more than they're going to let you have a Thompson. That's just the reading. I think you got to be more strategic in how we decide to go after that stuff. Ed, I don't think it's easier to use shall not be infringed with text and history and tradition unless it's put in the proper context. I think what you have to do is you have to show that, number one, arms are X. That's test number one. And the way I see the Bruin Heller test coming down, and understand, Heller said a long time ago that interest balancing was out the window, and everybody ignored it. I sat there and argued till I was blue in the face with lawyers on our side that we should be arguing page 63 of Heller. And everybody said they're not going to let. That was the test. There is no interest balancing. We know of no other constitutional right subject to a judge's interest balancing. That was the test then. Saw it then. Go find the old Cam and Company interview with me. I was on a cruise ship when Heller came out. I was in Grand Cayman. I got a call from Ray Long at the Chicago Tribune. Hey, what do you think? About what? Well, the court ruled. The court ruled on what? Dude, I'm in Grand Cayman. I'm at the turtle farm with my family. So, that was a $1,500 phone bill back in 2008. That's what my phone bill cost you with international roaming charges. Think about that. So I think there's a way to do it. But when you talk, so what you have to do is the conduct covered? Arms, carry, possession. Simple way to get at it. So under Illinois, FOID card, possession. Yeah. Infringed, diminished, delayed. I think that's how you have to argue this stuff using that. But other people just say infringed and that's it. We walk away. Game over. I mean, their brief is less than a page, but that's not how it all works. I think, Jason, I think that I think liability insurance is going to be a very difficult sell. They may pass it. We may have to fight over it in court. Anyways, let's see. Hopefully Trump can flip the 7 to original. Look, give me Trump and let me sit there and give him a list of judges. I would put McGlynn up on the Court of Appeals in a heartbeat. I think there's a bunch of other guys we could stack up there. And just, it's time for Easterbrook. And if, the question I've had is I think, guys, I think Hunter Biden's a piece of shit. I think that Joe Biden has been the head of a crime family that has used his office for personal gain. Can I prove all of it? No, but that's what I think. I think that instead of wasting time on hearings in Congress on Hunter Biden, I think if the president was selling his office as a senator and a vice president, I think that's important, but come up with some hard proof, and then it's worth talking about. Otherwise, the Clinton stuff that the Republicans did on impeachment cheapened impeachment to the point that Trump got impeached twice over bullshit. All right, that's what it is. So I think the way to go about some of that stuff is to turn around and have the Republicans hold the House and then turn around and have them conducted an investigation into the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. And because if you impeach a judge, it starts in the House, starts in the U.S. House of Representatives. They can impeach judges, and they have oversight. So you get Van Dyke from the Ninth Circuit, who's been writing these opinions about the corruption in his dissents, and say, all right, Justice Van Dyke, we know what you've written. Would you please tell us what happened in the background that's not in your brief? You're here under oath. Please tell us what emails were circulating, what conversations were happening in the hall, what was going on. And now, you because the Chief Justice that's handling stuff in the Ninth Circuit was on the panels before. She's not, they rotate Chief Justices. Easterbrook was once the Chief Justice of the Seventh Circuit. I think it's Diane Sykes. I know the last name Sykes. I think her first name is Diane. She's now the Chief Justice for the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. Whistle them in. What's going on here? Why does it seem that the Supreme Court has issued 4 rulings, yet you fail to understand the plain text? Bring Justice Easterbrook in there. Let him have a debate between Jim Jordan about Friedman and everything. Bring the guys, from down in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, and let them all know that if we have a Republican Congress, they've talked about stacking the court, impeaching Clarence Thomas. Well, let's take the left's tactics and use them against them. Oh, no. And oh, by the way, Frank Easterbrook, Frivolous Frank, was a Republican appointed judge. So we're going after Republican judges, Democratic. If you're just wrong, you're wrong. That's it. Let's see what happens if you get a bunch of these judges under oath and down it. They want to debate the law? Yeah, you have lifetime tenure until we revoke it via impeachment. Even if you only pass an article of impeachment, and this is like a nuclear hand grenade. But the left has been willing to throw nuclear hand grenades without, fear of repercussions. So do the same thing. So yeah, Feeney, I agree. I hope, Trump did a lot of good with what he did in political. That was where I give Mitch McConnell some attaboys for everything he did there. Let's see. Hey, Harper, good to have you on. Liner, have a good night. I think I think the trick is it depends on what McGlynn says about the 50 cal stuff, and you see what he writes about it to see what deficiencies are in the case, and then you build around that. And I think you go back down to McGlynn's court and you present a different set of evidence. And it wasn't the heart of this case. Again, I think that NFA drew a line. It's a fair line compared to a lot of the other things. And I think then, because the other side has made a whole lot of argument about how long or about the ballistics of 5.56. And to their chagrin, they've neglected pistol caliber carbines. So if I build an AR-15 and 9mm, that's okay. They don't want to go there. They really don't want to go there. Hey, 308 guy, welcome. So it has been an interesting week. There's a lot going on there. I even got called a grifter by some tuber that I get more comments about my wife's cat on my videos than he gets in general. It was just kind of comical. He took enough time to uh, poke around my YouTube channel to figure out, or my Facebook page or something to figure out that I run equipment out of the club. But he uh, he had 8. Let me look at something here. No, no, he had 8 comments at one point on this video, and I was 2 of them. He's a real douche canoe, but it is what it is. Maybe he's using my name for clickbait or something, and I don't know. So I think we're going to get a good ruling. The question is when. I will say this: when we got the injunction, McGlynn only took 16 days. So um, if he starts writing now, and we file our briefs because he starts outlining what he's thinking, waiting on the final briefs. Yeah, we could have a decision. I think it's entirely possible we get a decision before Thanksgiving. The 2 questions that come into that are, what does the Supreme Court do in Bianchi? What does the Seventh Circuit do in Viramontes? I think that even if the Supreme Court accepts Bianchi, he will issue his opinion. I think if the Seventh Circuit accepts Viramontes without our case, I think he will still issue an opinion. We'll see what happens after that. But that's just my wayward thinking of things. So if you guys got any more questions, pop them up real quick. We're hour and 10 minutes. My board meeting last night on the budget lasted less time than this video is going. So I want to give everybody a chance to ask questions or whatever. And then I'm going to go sign off and watch a movie with my wife. But it's all good seeing you guys. I just thought that it was easier to get on here and just ramble and chat a little bit and answer questions because I get them all the time than anything else. But, trying to let everybody know where it all is. I mean, Bishop's doing a good job. He did a great job covering the trial and all that. All good. All good. And trying to get some time out to shoot at the club to build the shoot house up, do all that kind of stuff. Got all kinds of stuff on, and I desperately need some time on a dozer. I desperately need to get back in the seat and do some stuff. The wife's doing better. She's doing better. The fact that she was doing dishes in the background tonight, she keeps pushing the boundaries of things that makes me nervous. But she keeps trying harder and harder to do more. So I can't ask for better. She's in a much better spot than she was a long time ago. It is now almost 9 months post. She's doing good. She's not back to her old capabilities, but she's getting there. She's good. And we're going to do some traveling with the RV that we bought. So, and everybody that keeps asking about her, we thank you very much for your concerns. Killdozer. Yes, there is a Killdozer that a fan sent me. And you know what? Yeah, I've had conversations with cops before. You really shouldn't screw with a guy who's got an excavator and 300 acres and knows how to run an excavator. But yeah, Killdozer, there is no problem that cannot be solved with the suitable application of a plasma cutter, a MIG welder, a suitable amount of Jack Daniels, and maybe some plastic explosives. So, um, Dave, I don't know what's going on with the divorce cases. I really haven't kept up on all of them. Um, they went after some different theories in state court, and I just have zero uh, idea as to what's going on. I've got my hands full keeping tabs on everything else. Uh, uh, yeah, I about choked when I heard 90-pound trigger pulls. I was trying to figure out how you get that stupid to get to the math. Uh, Brian, it depends on if there's money to be had. The problem is that Griffin and a bunch of the other guys just packed up and left town. And by them leaving town, I think they've took a lot of their money. The Republicans, for the longest time, relied on 3 or 4 billionaires to fund a lot of stuff, and I think that was a partial mistake. And now that they've bailed on the state, they're like, why should I throw more money? Now, understand that they make more interest on stuff. It's like, for them, it's like throwing $5 million is like throwing a nickel around. But Bruce Rauner, he's up in Montana. A little bit of time in Florida, I think, but trying to buy the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ken Griffin, Florida. If they've given up on Illinois and they have the resources to do things, then what's left? That's the real problem. You gotta, because even the business guys are sitting there pouring money into Democratic campaigns because they're a super majority. And I think the way they feel to win is to find enough Democrats that are moderate enough that you can peel off on a given issue. That's the thing. Um, Jason, I think PICA was a combination between the lawyers at GPAC and the anti-gun legislators. I don't think it was not wholly constructed within the General Assembly. There's plenty of anecdotal evidence that the anti-gunners had a big say in what was going in, what was not. Feeney, I don't deal with ISP for much of anything. I think we ought to just thump them over the head and do away with the FOID section. I think Rahimi helps us on clear and present danger. Um, DR, Bob Morgan's a stooge. Bob Morgan was just a useful idiot at the time because he represented Highland Park, was anti-gun. He couldn't tell you half of what's in that bill, much less argue it on the floor. Look at the floor debates. No, Morgan's a stooge. So that's long and short of it, guys. We're running up on an hour and 15 minutes. So with that, I'm going to thank everybody for coming in and listening to my ramblings. And I hope you all have a hey, Robert, see ya. I got your text message. Come down. We'll talk tomorrow. Everybody, thank you for listening to my ramblings and sharing a drink tonight. It's not the same as if we're all at a bar, but if William Kirk gets up here, I'm going to let you all know. We'll do an invite. Come on out, support the cause. And as always, frag out.